Alright, so I'm going to try to keep this video a little shorter. In my last episode, I talked about my first shroom experience, psychedelic experience, and towards the end of the video, I started talking about basically how psychedelics as a whole come into play in the spiritual journey. So I really want to sort of condense and capture my thoughts on that in this one video in hopefully a shorter format, so it'll get a little more views. I know my content's a little long. So, psychedelics. Um, from my experience, how do they work? What are their purpose or use in terms of the spiritual path? And what's going on with the psychedelics? So, from my experience, they very much have a place as a tool in the spiritual path. I have done shrooms once, 3 point something gram dried trip. I've done LSD trips 3 times. The first one was full blown ego death, nirvana, non duality, enlightenment, the full shebang. And then I had 2 trips after that to sort of, I don't know, try to re experience it, try to reground or confirm a lot of the stuff that I concluded from that first big trip. A lot of the same realizations and stuff going back in. And as of now, that's it. I don't plan on doing psychedelics again. I don't think at this point in my spiritual journey it has a use anymore. So I'm experienced with psychedelics. I've done them, a few times, but I am absolutely not a psychonaut. I don't trip all the time. That would scare me a lot. And honestly, I don't recommend drugs or psychedelics specifically. I want to be very explicit in that I think they serve a particular purpose as a tool for contemplating and understanding oneself and how the mind works in sort of your development on the spiritual path. I absolutely 100% do not recommend, condone, or advise. I really do not think that you should take psychedelics in any sort of recreational context. Um, People that do psychedelics for fun, I don't know, man. You guys are on a whole other. You guys are built different. I don't know what to tell you. I do not think that they are good in that context, that they're useful in that context, that you're getting um, what the experience is trying to tell you out of it in those contexts. I really don't think that psychedelics are to be used as a sort of escapism sort of drug. I think they can be really useful if you want to dive deep into yourself, introspect a lot, go really meta, think about the mind, and discover sort of perception, reality, how that stuff works. It can be useful on your path to understanding yourself, finding yourself as awareness on the spiritual journey. Okay, so that's where I think that they do have some application. With that, and research is starting to be done on psychedelics that can help with depression and other mental illnesses. Also, valid use. It helped me entirely with depression. I transcended depression entirely. I transcended the mind entirely on my trip. So yeah, it could be useful in those contexts. But we're not there yet as a society where the science is there, the research is there, the safe environment is there in terms of using them. That'll come hopefully soon because, depression and these other mental illnesses, they fucking suck. They're absolutely terrible. We're talking about really, really low levels of existence, really deep levels of suffering, So if they help in that, I think that's absolutely great. But this is so different from like a recreational context. There are a lot of dangers associated with these drugs. If you take a psychedelic, you need to really sit down and ask yourself: Are you ready to die? Are you ready to watch your entire reality, your entire sense of self be deconstructed right before your eyes? You know, that's the type of shit that can happen on, admittedly, perhaps higher doses. But you don't know how that shit's gonna hit you. Maybe a small dose is gonna give you a super big trip. You don't know that, and these are the kind of questions that you have to sit with. Are you ready to the ego death, to have your entire sense of self, your entire reality crumble before your eyes? You know, they say that. It's often stigmatized that, psychedelics, these sorts of bad drugs, you take them once, it'll fuck up your mind forever. I don't think that at a neurological, sort of physical level, they can, like, reprogram your brain uh, forever, sort of thing, and get you fucked or make you instantly schizophrenic or whatever. But the experiences that you can have on psychedelics will change you forever. You cannot go back after some of the experiences that we have. Um, when I ego deathed on my LSD trip, you can't go back after that. No, 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 no. That shit sticks with you. That's it. You can avoid it. You can try to convince yourself that that's not what happened, but nah. You know deep down that you saw something real. And yeah, so that shit'll potentially fuck with you, but overall, yeah, it could change you forever. You can have experiences that will change you forever, not necessarily for the worse. For the most part, it's for the better, absolutely. But at a higher level, are you ready for that? Are you ready to have an experience that could basically you're sort of ending this lineage of this idea of yourself that you've had. You've been this sort of continuous person. Are you ready to have an experience that could potentially end that line and change you forever going forward? That's a very big risk, or consequence, cause and effect. Doesn't necessarily have to be bad. We don't have to label it as good or bad, but I think from a cause and effect level, you got to know what you're getting into, and you got to sit there and contemplate, am I ready for this? Am I ready to let go of my ego to that level? Now, of course, you take like lower levels, lower doses, and you're not gonna have like a crazy full-blown enlightenment ego death trip, for sure. But you run that risk. You're breaching that territory of experiences, right? And it's intense. It'll be very intense, and yeah, it could get to you. It'll get to you, and it'll change you potentially forever, right? So with that, we talked about the dangers. There's a lot of benefits. I mentioned that they can be great for, mental health. It can help you sort of transcend the mind. It can help you completely transcend the mind and experience an enlightenment, non-duality, spiritual awakening sort of experience. Um, it'll help you deconstruct reality and understand things at the truest level and not be stuck in illusion sort of thing. Very useful for that. For other people, apparently they get lots of hyperfractals, really cool visuals, lots of crazy colors. I have not experienced that personally, so I can't speak to that, but I've had multiple people who I know and from researching online and stuff that talk about psychedelic visuals and lots of crazy visuals. Again, this is not a recreational thing. If you want to take a psychedelic because I think it'd be pretty cool to see crazy colors and hyperfractals, don't do it. Absolutely not. That's cool, but there's a lot going on here in the psychedelic sphere that's way deeper, has way more real implications at the philosophical, metaphysical, um, identity level that way deeper than just cool colors and stuff. I absolutely do not think that you should take these substances for recreational purposes. But again, could be useful on the spiritual journey. You're trying to find yourself. You maybe identify with the mind, and you're trying to go a little deeper, introspect a little more. You're going to probably have to do a lot of emotional work. You're going to introspect and discover a lot of parts of your shadow, of your subconscious that you're going to have to work through and integrate after. Um, it's not a light experience, especially on higher doses, deeper trips. Very intense experiences, right? But useful, potentially, on your progression on the spiritual path. Where I'm at now and what my conclusions would be now. So I would say that I'm enlightened. I've experienced what I could only label, if I had to use words, I can only label it as enlightenment, nirvana, non-duality. People that know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that experience. Am I a fully awakened Buddha? Do I embody that 24/7? No, right? But I've seen that, and I know that it's there, and I sort of understand, as much as my mind can conceptualize and understand the inexplicable, what's going on here. And I think that after you've seen that, I don't know if psychedelics or any sorts of drugs or any sort of thinking, encouraging sort of substances have a place in the journey if you really want to get serious. If you're really serious about spiritual path, self-actualization, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, that sort of journey of really finding oneself, embodying oneself, connecting with the higher self, I think that these substances can help get you to understand what's going on and maybe help you experience an awakening, have an awakening experience. But when you come back down, you're probably gonna get a lot of realizations. You're gonna have a lot to work with, and you're gonna have a lot that you're gonna have to change in your everyday life to embody it. You can't just live your regular life and then trip every weekend and then make progress. I think the progress happens because you'll trip, you'll have that high experience, and then you'll come back down to sort of your default, your regular state. What we're talking about here is raising that default state to the point where you don't need to take anything anymore. That's where I'm at. That's what I'm trying to do. And that's why I meditate for 3 hours every fucking day, right? We're trying to raise those baseline levels. And having these experiences can skyrocket you and make you say, oh my God, I get it, sort of thing. Okay, but then what are you going to do now? Right, so you get it, you have to actually embody it. And I think once you get it, and you'll know when you get it, I can't explain it, but I'm pretty confident that you'll know. And you'll know that if you're serious about it, it goes down to an embodiment level. You have to actually start integrating a lot of the realizations you've had and, making it work in your day-to-day. I think that psychedelics can often be abused and are used by people that maybe are just trying to trip but aren't serious about actually embodying the type of things that they're learning from the trip. And I'm not saying that, if you take psychedelics, then you have to meditate all the time, you have to commit to the spiritual journey, the spiritual path. You don't have to. You can do it as much as you're ready for and discover things at your own pace. But I wouldn't recommend psychedelics if you've seen the sort of things that I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, and you're serious about it and you really want to start embodying it and making direct progress on the path. Psychedelics can help give you a sort of foresight of what's to come potentially. But if you actually want to start building up there, you have to start step by step, uh, making the progress. There's no solution that involves take an enlightenment pill or an enlightenment tab and then boom, oh, easy, you're a Buddha now. That's not how it works. That's not. Maybe there's very few individuals on this planet that will have a full awakening and they just instantly embody it. I don't know. I don't know how that works. That's absolutely not what's happened with my experience. I still have a lot of work to do, and it's not a small amount of work. Like, this shit takes decades. I meditate for 3 hours a day now. You know how much of my regular life I had to cut out to fit in 3 hours of meditating, prioritize that every day. Um, and yet the more I do it, I can, if I'm projecting into the future, I think it's just going to be more, you know. But yeah, this is when we're getting to real embodiment levels where I think psychedelics don't have a place anymore. But yeah, those are my thoughts on psychedelics. Let me know what you think, what your experiences have been with it, and where you think you're at on spiritual journey. Much love to all of you. That's it for me. Thank you.